Get away from her, you bitch! Aliens wasn't just James Cameron's breakout blockbuster, it was a war zone disguised as a movie set. Behind Sigourney Weaver's commanding performance and those iconic xenomorph encounters lurked production disasters that nearly destroyed the film before audiences could witness Ripley's legendary showdown. Tea breaks triggered mutinies. Crew members walked off set. Cameron fired his cinematographer mid-production, and that's just the beginning of the chaos that erupted at Pinewood Studios. Today we're diving into 20 weird facts about aliens that reveal the brutal reality behind one of sci-fi's greatest sequels. Plus, we've got a bonus fact that'll shatter everything you thought you knew about the film's most terrifying moment. Let's lock and load. The British tea break war nearly destroyed production. The most unexpected enemy James Cameron faced on Aliens wasn't the xenomorphs, it was tea time. Filming was difficult as Cameron had little familiarity with British film industry traditions such as tea breaks, which interrupted production for up to an hour each weekday. Cameron reportedly locked heads with veteran assistant director Derek Cracknell over the tea breaks, thinking the British crew was lazy, insolent, and arrogant. Not creative differences, but Earl Grey. Cameron's American work ethic clashed violently with centuries of British labor tradition. Every afternoon, production ground to a halt while the crew enjoyed their sacred ritual. Cameron was frustrated at losing hours of filming every week. What started as cultural confusion escalated into open warfare. The director who would later conquer Titanic and Avatar was being defeated by afternoon refreshments. A near mutiny erupted when Cameron fired his cinematographer. Dick Bush wasn't just the cinematographer, he was the crew's respected veteran. When Cameron fired him mid-production, there were reports of near mutiny amongst the crew, and tensions ran high. At one point, many of the crew actually did walk out after Cameron fired the original director of photography, Dick Bush, who was later replaced by Adrian Biddle. It wasn't about one man's dismissal, it was about respect, experience, and a young American director challenging the British film establishment. The crew saw Cameron as an upstart destroying their colleague's career. Mass walkouts paralyzed production. Cameron faced a choice: compromise his vision or lose his entire team. He chose to fight, replacing Bush with Adrian Biddle and somehow convincing enough crew members to return. The decision would define both the film's visual style and Cameron's reputation as a director willing to sacrifice relationships for perfection. James Cameron was only making his second real film. "I wasn't a very experienced filmmaker at the time, this was only my second film," said Cameron, ignoring his debut Piranha 2, The Spawning, 1982, from which he was fired after a week. 23 years old and armed with nothing but the Terminator's success, Cameron was attempting to create a sci-fi epic with practical effects that would challenge Star Wars. Not seasoned expertise, but raw ambition. The pressure was crushing. Fox executives questioned every decision. The British crew doubted his authority. Weaver carried the weight of following Ridley Scott's masterpiece. Yet Cameron's inexperience became his strength. He didn't know what was impossible, so he attempted everything. The naivety that frustrated his crew ultimately created cinema history. Sigourney Weaver became the set's emotional anchor. While Cameron battled his crew, Weaver emerged as the production's stabilizing force. "Sigourney was so nice," Bill Paxton recalled. By all accounts, she was well loved by the other cast members, serving as the heart and soul of the set, the glue that kept it all together. She wasn't just starring in the film, she was saving it. When tensions exploded between Cameron and the British crew, Weaver mediated conflicts. When young actors struggled with the intensity, she mentored them. Her professionalism contrasted sharply with the chaos surrounding her. While Cameron earned a reputation as a demanding perfectionist, Weaver balanced his intensity with compassion, creating the collaborative environment that allowed the film's emotional core to flourish. The Alien Queen was a 14-foot practical marvel. Forget CGI, the terrifying Alien Queen that still haunts nightmares was pure mechanical artistry. Standing 14 feet tall and operated by multiple puppeteers, the Queen required a sophisticated system of cables, hydraulics, and human coordination that pushed 1980s practical effects to their absolute limits. Not computer graphics, but old school ingenuity. Every movement was choreographed like a deadly ballet. Puppeteers crammed into cramped spaces, operating different body sections while remaining invisible to cameras. The Queen's facial expressions, tail movements, and predatory stalking were achieved through precise human coordination. When she rips Bishop in half, that's not movie magic, it's mechanical precision creating one of cinema's most visceral moments. Bill Paxton's "game over" line was pure improvisation. Hudson's panicked breakdown became the film's most quotable moment, but Paxton's hysterical "game over, man, game over" wasn't in Cameron's script. It erupted from Paxton's genuine understanding of his character's psychological collapse under impossible pressure. The line captures everything about Aliens, the Vietnam War parallels, the technological helplessness, the breaking point where bravado crumbles into terror. Paxton channeled his character's desperation into a moment that defined not just Hudson, but the entire Colonial Marines experience. That single improvised phrase became shorthand for hopeless situations across popular culture. Sometimes the most authentic moments arise when actors abandon the script and embrace their characters' truth. Carrie Henn was discovered in a military school. Newt wasn't cast through traditional auditions, she was found by accident. Carrie Henn, whose father was stationed at a U.S. military base in England, was discovered when casting directors visited military families looking for authentic American children living overseas. Not acting experience, but genuine authenticity. Henn had never acted professionally, but her real-life experience as a military child gave her the resilience and maturity that Cameron needed for Newt. Her natural chemistry with Weaver couldn't be taught or directed. It emerged from two people genuinely caring for each other on set. Henn's performance remains one of cinema's most believable child performances precisely because she wasn't performing. She was being herself in extraordinary circumstances. The pulse rifles were built from Thompson machine guns. The iconic colonial marine weapons that defined military sci-fi weren't futuristic props. They were World War II Thompson submachine guns modified with shotgun components and futuristic shells. The production team grafted modern elements onto classic firearms to create weapons that felt both familiar and otherworldly. This hybrid approach perfectly captured Alien's aesthetic philosophy, grounding fantasy in recognizable reality. The pulse rifle's distinctive sound came from combining the Thompson's mechanical action with electronic effects. Marines could handle them convincingly because they were handling real weapons with familiar weight and balance. The result was movie magic that felt authentically dangerous, contributing to the film's visceral combat sequences. James Remar was fired and replaced after filming started. Michael Bihn's iconic Corporal Hicks wasn't Cameron's first choice. James Remar originally played the role and filmed for several weeks before being dismissed from production. 2 scenes with James Remar as Hicks shown from the back were used in the film. Creative differences and reported personal issues led to Remar's departure. Not smooth recasting, but production upheaval. Bihn was brought in to reshoot most of Hicks's scenes, but eagle-eyed viewers can still spot Remar in background shots where his face isn't visible. The character's chemistry with Ripley, essential to the film's emotional arc, had to be rebuilt from scratch. Bihn's natural intensity and vulnerability transformed Hicks into the perfect romantic interest, a warrior capable of matching Ripley's strength while respecting her leadership. The alien facehugger scene used real animal parts. Go ahead and like and subscribe because we're about to dive into the grotesque reality behind the film's most disturbing practical effects. The facehugger's visceral organic movements weren't achieved through rubber and foam. They incorporated actual animal organs and tissues to create authentically repulsive alien biology. The puppet's internal mechanisms were supplemented with genuine organic materials that would pulse, contract, and move in ways that artificial materials couldn't replicate. This commitment to biological authenticity extended throughout the film's creature design. Cameron and his effects team understood that audiences could instinctively detect fake organic movement, so they used real organic elements to sell the illusion. The result was creature effects that remain unsettling decades later because they're rooted in genuine biological reality. Ripley's daughter subplot was cut from theatrical release. In 1986, several scenes were cut to keep the movie's runtime reasonable, but there was one scene that was incredibly foolish to leave out, the scene near the beginning where Ripley learns that her daughter has died while she was away in hypersleep for 57 years. This revelation completely recontextualizes Ripley's relationship with Newt. Not just action scenes, but emotional foundation. The deleted subplot transforms Ripley from a survivor into a grieving mother seeking redemption. Her fierce protection of Newt becomes her attempt to save the daughter she lost to time. Several scenes were removed from Alien's theatrical release, including Ripley learning about her daughter's death. Cameron's director's cut restored this crucial character development, revealing the psychological depth that motivated Weaver's performance throughout the film. The power loader fight was filmed without green screen. The climactic battle between Ripley and the alien queen wasn't created through optical illusions. It was filmed practically using ingenious mechanical engineering. The power loader was a functional exoskeleton that Weaver actually operated during filming, with hydraulic systems providing the mechanical strength while she controlled the movements. Not special effects trickery, but physical choreography, Weaver trained extensively to operate the power loader convincingly, learning to coordinate the mechanical systems while maintaining her character's emotional intensity. The Queen was operated by puppeteers positioned just outside the camera frame. The result was a genuine physical confrontation between two mechanical marvels, with both creatures responding authentically to each other's movements and impacts. The film's budget ballooned from $13 million to $18 million. Production costs spiraled out of control as Cameron's ambitious practical effects pushed the boundaries of what was financially feasible. The complex mechanical creatures, extensive sets, and repeated reshoots caused by crew conflicts transformed a modest sequel budget into a major studio gamble. Not careful financial planning, but creative necessity. Every dollar was visible on screen, in the intricate creature designs, the detailed sets, the explosive action sequences. Fox executives watched nervously as costs mounted, but Cameron's vision demanded nothing less than perfection. The budget overruns weren't waste, they were investments in cinematic history. The film's enduring impact justified every exceeded expense. Stan Winston's creature shop worked 24-hour shifts. The alien creatures weren't created during normal business hours. They emerged from round-the-clock manufacturing marathons that pushed Winston's team to their physical and creative limits. Artists worked in rotating shifts to meet Cameron's demanding production schedule, handcrafting every xenomorph variant with obsessive attention to detail. Each creature was a custom sculpture, combining artistic vision with mechanical engineering. The Queen alone required months of development, from initial concept sketches to final mechanical systems. Workers literally slept in the workshop during crunch periods, waking to continue detailing alien appendages or perfecting acid blood effects. This exhaustive dedication created creatures that remain the gold standard for practical monster effects. The atmosphere processor miniature was 6 feet tall. The massive industrial complex that dominates LV-426's landscape wasn't a computer-generated environment. It was a meticulously crafted 6-foot-tall miniature filmed using forced perspective and careful lighting to create the illusion of enormous scale. Model makers spent months creating every pipe, structure, and mechanical detail. The miniature incorporated working lights, moving elements, and practical smoke effects. When the atmosphere processor explodes in the film's climax, that's the actual miniature being destroyed in a carefully orchestrated pyrotechnic display. The technique grounded the alien world in physical reality, making the environment feel tangible and dangerous, rather than artificially perfect. Bishop's knife trick. Used a real blade. Lance Henriksen's android demonstration wasn't achieved through editing trickery. He actually performed the knife game using a genuine blade moving at dangerous speed between his fingers. The scene required precise timing, steady nerves, and absolute trust in Henriksen's hand-eye coordination. Not special effects, but genuine skill. Henriksen practiced extensively to perfect the routine, understanding that any mistake could result in serious injury. The tension in Paxton's face during the scene reflects his genuine nervousness, watching a real knife blur past real fingers. This commitment to practical authenticity extended throughout the film, creating moments of genuine danger that cameras captured without artifice. The Colonial Marines' armor was modified police riot gear. The futuristic military equipment that defined the Colonial Marines' aesthetic wasn't designed from scratch. It was contemporary police riot gear, modified with additional plates, electronics, and futuristic details to create a believable military evolution. This practical approach grounded the Marines in recognizable military reality while projecting their equipment into a plausible future. The armor had authentic weight and restrictions that influenced how actors moved and fought. The modifications created visual consistency across the squad while allowing for individual character variations. The result was military equipment that felt both advanced and believable, contributing to the film's successful military science fiction atmosphere. Newt's hiding places were built to child scale. The ventilation shafts and cramped spaces where Newt evades the aliens weren't adult-sized sets modified for a child actor. They were built specifically to carry Hen's dimensions, creating genuinely claustrophobic environments that couldn't accommodate adult actors. Cameron understood that Newt's survival depended on spaces too small for both aliens and adults. The child-scale construction created authentic spatial relationships that enhanced the film's survival horror elements. Hen could navigate these spaces naturally, while adult characters remained genuinely excluded. This attention to scale details contributed to the film's believable world-building, where every environmental element served specific narrative purposes. The alien blood was composed of dangerous chemicals. The xenomorph's acidic blood wasn't just colored corn syrup. It was created using actual corrosive materials that could burn through metal, creating genuine chemical reactions when it contacted various surfaces during filming. Not safe movie magic, but controlled chemical warfare. The effects team used concentrated acids, diluted to safe levels while maintaining enough corrosive power to achieve authentic metal-burning effects. Sets were prepared with replaceable sections that could be safely destroyed by the acid blood. This chemical authenticity created visceral reactions that audiences could instinctively recognize as genuinely dangerous, contributing to the aliens' terrifying biological threat. Ripley's final showdown was inspired by motherhood. Cameron structured the film's climax around competing maternal instincts, Ripley protecting Newt versus the alien queen defending her eggs. This biological conflict elevated the action beyond simple combat into a primal battle between two mothers willing to destroy anything threatening their offspring. The queen's rage when Ripley torches the egg chamber mirrors every parent's protective fury, magnified to monstrous proportions. Ripley's desperate rescue mission channels maternal love into lethal determination. Their final confrontation isn't just hero versus monster, it's mother versus mother, with the fate of their respective species hanging in the balance. Cameron understood that the most compelling conflicts arise from universal human experiences pushed to extraordinary extremes. Get away from her, you bitch. The line that defines Ripley's character transformation from survivor to warrior almost didn't make it into the final film. Studio executives worried that the profanity was unnecessary and might affect the film's rating or alienate family audiences. Cameron fought passionately to preserve the line, arguing that Ripley's raw emotion in that moment needed authentic expression. The profanity wasn't gratuitous, it was the culmination of every frustration, every loss, every moment of terror that Ripley had endured. When she finally faces the Queen directly, her humanity emerges through entirely human language. The line stayed, becoming one of cinema's most empowering moments, and cementing Ripley's place as an iconic action hero who never lost her essential humanity. Aliens didn't just survive its chaotic production, it transformed every disaster into cinematic gold. The British crew conflicts that nearly destroyed filming created the intense pressure that drove Cameron's perfectionist vision. The budget overruns funded practical effects that remain superior to modern CGI. The cultural clashes between American ambition and British tradition forged a film that balanced raw innovation with classical filmmaking craftsmanship. What emerged from the chaos wasn't just a sequel, it was a masterclass in turning production disasters into creative triumphs. Every behind-the-scenes battle contributed to a film that continues to influence science fiction cinema 4 decades later. If you enjoyed discovering these secrets from the Aliens production, hit that subscribe button, because the truth behind your favorite films is always stranger than fiction. And remember, in space, no one can hear you scream, but on film sets, everyone can hear you argue about tea breaks.